Ta-ta! Gotcha!
Hey there! So recently I finished playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and I have to say I had a really good time with it. The video game does not only have beautiful graphics and amazing soundtracks, it also convinces with a complex, deep and morally challenging story. Lastly, the game adds to the emotional impact it has by letting the player choose how the story ends. Having chosen one ending myself, I went to YouTube to look up the alternative ending to satisfy my curiosity. Interesting enough, most people on the platform seem to favor one ending over the other, even describing one of the two outcomes as the right decision to make. It was at that moment that I came up with this video idea. So today, I'd like to find an answer to the question: did you actually make the right decision in Clair Obscur Expedition 33? Before we can answer this question though, we need to recap the story. And at this point, I'd like to make a disclaimer, because I will spoil a major story element. If you'd like to experience the story by yourself, I totally get that. Just make sure to leave this video now. You have been warned. So let's dive into the lore then. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 plays in a version of France in the early 19th century. There, we meet the Descendre family, the mother Aline, the father Renoir, and the three children Verceau, Cléa, and Alicia. However, the Descendre are not a normal family. They are known as painters, a name that reflects their inherent talent for art and drawings. There's more to it. Not only is the family gifted when it comes to art, their creations also have the potential to come to life. The game hints at this fact by explaining that their art contains soul fragments. I think that art often reflects personal experiences, wishes, and emotions of an artist. Maybe this is why art is able to attract such a broad audience. The stories they tell feel real and meaningful. There's something we can connect with. But back to the story. In the game, we learn that young Verceau, the son of the family, has drawn a parallel world of Paris with people and other creatures on a canvas. And we learn that this painting has become real. We learn that Verceau used to enter the canvas with his sisters to play with the creations inside the drawing and even befriending them. This allows for two different explanations in my opinion. Either this is a metaphoric way of stating how immersive Verceau's creation actually was to him and his family. Or we can interpret this as the Descendre having special powers, allowing to make their art come to life and interact with it. While progressing in the game, we learn that Verceau died in a tragic fire accident while trying to save his sister Alicia. The mother Aline, overwhelmed by grief, fled into Verceau's canvas and drew herself a copy of her family to delay her grieving process. The game lets us know that in order to create things and maintain the world inside the painting, Aline needs to use so-called chroma as fuel. Renoir, who thinks that his wife's behavior is harming her, decides to enter the canvas as well, to force her out of it and deal with her experienced loss. In doing so, he triggers a fracture in the parallel world, causing the capital city Lumière to break off the main continent. Cléa, one of the daughters, decides to support her father in his effort to get Aline out of the canvas. She also enters the parallel world and creates creatures known as Neverants. These creatures are designed to kill people and withdraw chroma from the painting, the fuel of this painted world. As a consequence, Aline has less and less resources to maintain the world inside the canvas. As her strength weakens, Renoir is able to gain more control with the help of the withdrawn chroma. He begins erasing the world, starting with the oldest creations in the painting that seem to be the most vulnerable ones as Aline's power diminishes. This act is known as gommage and takes place once a year. His ultimate goal is to establish the world so that Aline is forced to exit the canvas. The game tells us that Renoir does this as an act of love to help Aline recognize her place is not in the painted world, but in the real one, outside of it. But back to erasing the world. The canvas, the oldest creations are the people that have lived the longest. That means the eldest generation. The weakened Aline, who is also known as the Paintress by the people of Lumière, then starts to warn mankind that she will no longer be able to protect certain age groups from Renoir's influence. She does not speak, but warns the people by painting a number on a giant monolith. The number reflects the age group that will be wiped out by Renoir as her power dwindles. In the first year, people that are 100 get erased. The next year, people that are 99, then 98, and so forth. However, the people of Lumière are oblivious to the true intentions of the Paintress. They see her as the enemy and the creator of the Neverance. So after the first gommage, people of Lumière start expeditions to the continent every year to search for the Paintress and kill her in order to save their people. In the game, the player follows one of these expeditions, the 33, implying that the generations before have not been able to succeed in their mission to stop the Paintress. As part of the expedition, we meet different characters: Lune, Ciel, Gustave, Monoko, and Maël. On their mission, the group meets Painted Verso. Remember, he is a copy of the real Verso Aline painted to not having to face her grief. He has been gifted with immortality by Aline. He has followed countless expeditions before, has discovered the truth about the Paintress and Renoir, and is tired of his immortality and his copied existence in a painted world. He wants to put an end to the parallel world by forcing the Paintress out of the canvas. However, he does not disclose his plans to the expedition until the very end of the game. Maël is another important character of the group. She's a young woman that grew up in Lumière. With story progression, we learn that she's actually Alicia from the real world that has entered the canvas as well to help Clea and her father get Aline back. However, while doing so, she was overtaken by Aline's chroma and has been rewritten and reborn into the parallel world as the girl named Maël. Maël only regains her memory later in the game, realizing that she actually has a physical body outside the canvas and remembering her mother rewriting her as she entered the painting. However, being part of the canvas for so long, she deeply cares about the world and the people inside of it and wants to fight to maintain this world. She also wants to preserve this painted world because it is her dead brother's last heritage. And so, at the end of the game, the player is given the choice to either side with Verso, who wants to destroy the canvas and his painful existence and help his mother to face and accept her loss, or to side with Maël, to maintain and protect the world she deeply loves and cares for. So, knowing all of this, is there a right choice to make here? The answer is actually not easy, because the story plays with different layers of reality that are all true at the same time. Therefore, your decision might depend on which reality you give the most importance. If you heavily focus on the story being a metaphor for loss, Painted Verso's motivation does make sense. Not only is Aline evading dealing with a loss by staying inside the canvas, she is also inflicting ongoing pain to her family. And we as players can empathize with Verso's somber personality or he would not be real under these circumstances. The game also suggests that by destroying the canvas, last trapped pieces of real Verso's soul fragments might find peace at last. The question remains, however, how helpful Painted Verso's actions are if he forces his mother to deal with her loss, even if she might not be ready to do so. Many people on the internet argue based on that metaphor and deem this the right decision to make. However, if you focus on the second layer of reality and consider the world as a living and breathing world, destroying the canvas might seem cruel. The game itself implies that the painter family has the power to create things and bestow them with life. So even if the canvas is created and maintained by family grief, the world and all its creations are still real. They breathe, they love, they grieve, and they fight to survive. Considering this, wouldn't it be unfair to erase the world just so a mother and her family can grieve properly? Adding to that dilemma, the game hints at a third layer of reality. Clea says at one point that the so-called writers are responsible for Verso's death. What does she mean by that? The writers might possibly just be another group of artists that have ongoing conflict with the painters in the real world. This might have motivated them to lay fire that then killed Verso. But what if Clea actually refers to writers in the sense that there is another creator out there, one that wrote their reality, just like they, as painters, painted another reality? And what if the writers decided to kill Verso for dramatic purposes in their story, that is, in the Descendre's reality? This would make the real world of the Descendre not any more real than their painted world in the canvas. They may have been created by the writers, they are creations with consciousness and emotions. Pretty effed up, huh? So in conclusion, I do not think there is a right or wrong end, or even a canon end for that matter. It depends on where you, as the player, lay your focus. Do you see the game more as a metaphor for dramatic loss? Or do you see the game more as a complex story of creators and creations, all interacting with one another? And maybe you also just see the game as an homage to art itself and the power it holds. One thing is clear to me though. With its complex and morally challenging story, the game itself seems to possess what it calls soul fragments, because it was able to deeply touch many people around the world. And on a side note, I find it interesting that the third reality of the game reflects something that might not be science fiction forever. If we assume there is a higher being out there that created us, that would make him a writer, and us very similar to the Descendre reality. And funny enough, we start to create a new life form ourselves, even though we are still at the beginning. I'm talking about the development and rapid growth of AI and the potential it holds for the future. Will it someday also be aware of its existence? In this case, AI might just become similar to the world in the canvas, and moral dilemmas would arise. What are your thoughts on Clair Obscur Expedition 33? What ending have you chosen, or would you choose? I'd like to hear from you in the comments. For now, I thank you so much for listening to me rambling about a game I really enjoyed. See you next time. Santo out.